request, and then by the time you get the request comes, I mean, what's the issues he's having in the city of Lafayette? We're finding in the rural areas that are leading into subdivision and main thoroughfare, and I'm getting the same thing. Why is this grass? It hasn't rained. Why the intersection of Fieldspan and Landry between Mr. Bellard and I's district and all over? It's like we send a request in, we got to do 30-day. By the time you do all this process, the constituencies are getting frustrated. They're aggravated. It's like, why isn't it as simple as sending somebody from Public Works with a weed eater and go mow it down at intersections? So my issue is more related to intersections or along ditches along the road where, you know, the yard's cut, but right at the ditch and going onto the road, it's 2 foot tall.
Well, the responsibility to maintain those ditches is the landowner's responsibility.
But when it becomes agriculture,
even agriculture, they're required to maintain a 50-foot buffer as well as the right-of-way itself. The property owner.
that's not true.
It's a very difficult ordinance to interpret. Agricultural property is by and large exempt.
Exactly.
Agricultural property that's not being used for agricultural purposes, the ordinance could be applied. We defer to the Lafayette Parish Tax Assessor to tell us if this is or isn't something that has an agricultural land use applied to it.
And I guess what I'm getting at is that's the issue with me, because I want the intersections to be visible. I want the four-way stop. I mean,
well, when we do identify a particular intersection where there is a safety hazard due to the limited available site flares, then we will send out somebody to cut that at that time, and we've done that even on state highways to address a safety issue. We can't do all of them all of the time. I mean, we basically have a bush hog.
No.
And
I guess I'm looking for more consistency when the call was being placed or a request of service was in. There was about 4 or 5 intersections that was sent into us, that we sent into the council staff, and Joseph had got with you guys, and it's going on 3 weeks, and I keep getting the same calls. What's taking so long to get this intersection cut? So there might be a lot of moving parts, and I'm like, Ken, I'm not trying to criticize. I'm just trying to let you know that the constituents in the rural area and unincorporated areas have the same issues and same concerns as what he's fighting. And I also would like some better process or something that this council or this parish can afford to say, hey, we have somebody that when the call comes in, we can address it. And if it is one of those ordinances where it's agriculture and we got to get with the, you know, I'm just looking for the same thing, because it's an eyesore, and I get a lot of calls for grass cutting, and it's mainly along the roads, intersections where, you know. So I know we limited. I know we have limited supplies, and we shorthanded, and we're doing the best we can. But I would be interested in working with whoever we got to work with, or join Mr. Boudreaux and other council members to figure out how can we change the process, or what can we do more efficient to clean up some of these areas and not have to wait 30 days and then it rains and then now we're 60 days. And I mean, it's very frustrating.
Right. So, Mr. Knott, I could tell you this, and as it's my discussion item, I just want to make sure that the record is reflecting our request so they could certainly get an opportunity to research and respond. One of the things that, and it was funny, I saw Mark Pope here today. One of the things that was dated way back then was we were supposed to revisit the EQ ordinance, and I don't recall we ever did. There was we had two parts to revisit. We did one part, but we didn't get to this that I'm aware of, because like one of the things that stood out and might help Councilman Notcan was the percentage of grass that must be cut to determine if you're out of violation, because there were people who were leaving ditches. They would cut their whole yard surface, but they wouldn't touch the ditches, but they were actually not in compliance because it was a percentage of their land parcel, their land mass that had to be cut. So one of the things I would ask is that if legal was active in this as well, at the end of the day, we're gonna have to revisit the ordinance, obviously. So that's something that the Public Works Liaison Team was gonna be working on with the department and with the legal staff, because things like, we wanted to get away from people, neighbors were squabbling because they would leave the stuff next to the neighbor all high and cut the rest to be in compliance. And we wanted to go to 100% cut and that type of stuff. So I think we need to revisit the ordinance to address one of your issues.
Yeah, no doubt. I'm just mentioning that grass is an issue across the board, and it obviously would be nice if property owners and people would just take care of everything, but we understand that some situations are abandoned properties, it's just left alone. So I agree. I'll be more than glad to work on helping clean that up or whatever we have to do. So I'm gonna move on to the next. Did you have something to say, Mr. Roy?
Well, I mean, I could provide some further clarification if you wanted. I mean, site triangles are not really dealt with through environmental quality. I understand it's a grass issue.
Right.
And I understand it's a very serious public safety issue. Therefore, they're generally evaluated by traffic and transportation and handled by operations in-house, not through our inspectors and
So
our
what happens if
contractors.
it is a site triangle? Guide me through the steps. If it doesn't fall in that area, can we cut the grass for the state and build a state?
No, that's, I mean,
Can we
that's
try?
not going to be effective to do that. We'll cut the grass. If it's a safety issue, we'll send our crew to cut the grass at that intersection. And we've done that in the city, we've done it in the parish.
So regardless if it's a state highway or whatever, we can do it?
If it's severe.
Okay. All right. Okay.
All right,
I'm
thank you.
good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boudreau.
Mr. Lewis?
Yes, I have problems just like Mr. Boudreau, and I'm sure other council members, about tall grass that need to be cut. I get calls every day, and I know I've been working with you, Russell and Beth. I've been helping out a lot, really have. And I never could understand about the sending out letters out for infractions, and now I'm glad what Paul is saying, that it might be that I think that'll help out a lot. If you don't have to send out a letter every time someone is in violation, that will help out a lot. But where I have a lot of concerns, as also with Mr. Nakane saying about agricultural property. In the city of Lafayette, where I represent, it's not really, it's just vacant property. It might be an acre, might be a little more, but it becomes wooded property. And what's happened is that we can't not cut it, from my understanding, is because there's not a building or anything on that property, so the city cannot go and cut it. And what happens is that we have homeless people start living on these grounds. You know, you go there, you have sofas there, furniture, they're actually living there, and we just can't go out there and cut it. That's where a lot of my constituents are complaining, why is that so? You have rodents come out there, snakes, they're killing snakes on their driveway because it's wooded land. Prime example, right on the frontage road by Walmart. And I know, Russell, you and I talk about that several times, and people calling me at least once a month, asking why we cannot have these vacant property cut. And I can name more than that. And another area that I'm having concern, Mr. Brock, you and I talked about it, along the railroad track. I mean, you pass around the railroad track on Uval Street. I mean, they happened to cut it last week, I think it was, but that grass, I mean, since the summertime, never been cut, maybe once. And I don't know, I think the problem is we can't build the railroad, but I know I think you're working on something like that, you know, so I don't know if you have, but I know I brought it to your attention before. Yes. So, and again, that's an ISO and also a safety issue when people getting right there by the railroad track. I mean, it's very, you can't see. So there's some concerns I have, and I'm sure Mr. Paul, hello. No, when you look into what Ken is talking about, you can look at these vacant property becomes to be agriculture in the railroad, what we can do around the railroad tracks, because that's really a concern of my constituents. And I do have some neighbors that are cutting grass to help out. And what happens, someone might call in to have some grass cut, and it takes a long time, so they take it upon themselves to cut it. And they're not getting reimbursed, but they cut it because they're taking care of their neighborhood. So the process, you know, everyone talk about a process, and I think the process is not working. So I agree with Mr. Boudreau. Let's change the process if we can. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Mayor Robideau.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be brief. Certainly appreciate the comments by Mr. Boudreau and everyone on the council. just to reinforce, it is something that we've been talking about internally with, I know Marcus Bruno brought it to my attention early on as it relates to the grass cutting. And so I'm in favor of look, baby steps. If it means let's spread it out and get more people, attacking the problem, then I think that's a great start. We don't need to try to come up with the perfect solution and end up taking years to do that. We know that that'll help, and let's do it. A lot of the instances get very complicated with adjudicated properties, and there's a lot of legal issues. One of the instances that exist out there is where the individuals know that the complaints will get called in, and that ultimately we'll go cut the grass, and then 3-4 months later, the complaints, and we'll go cut the grass, and then we just build up the charges, and then when it comes time for them to pay their annual property taxes, they'll just pay the property taxes, and they'll pay off all the liens, the grass cutting liens, and so we effectively become their lawn service. And so the one thing that I would like to add, if it's allowed for Paul to look into, is whatever the dollar amount is on the first one, it's going to exponentially go up on the second one and the third one, so people think twice about us being their lawn service, and that they may actually take care of it themselves. Because they're really, in those instances, there is no incentive for them to cut their own grass because they know we're ultimately going to do it, and it's actually a fairly reasonable rate. And so if we could also look into that, Paul, please, is there the ability, and if there's not, then certainly I'd be willing to introduce the ordinance, or certainly would support an ordinance that said multiple offenders, it's an escalating pay scale of what we charge to actually go out there and cut the grass. So that was the only thing I wanted to add.
Okay. Mr. Escott? Good?
I've got it down. I'll take a look at it.
All right. Appreciate it. Moving right along, Mr. Terrio.
Real quick, guys, just for the audience watching, if you guys could identify yourselves, a lot of people watching may not know. Go ahead.
Russell Borga, I'm with Environmental Quality. I'm Code Enforcement Supervisor.
Okay.
Best Foray, Environmental Quality Manager.
And I'm Mark Dubrock, Director of Public Works.
Thank you, thank you. I had somebody text me, who are the people on the left side? So, okay. Anyway, look, we spoke earlier about a situation, Bess, you and I spoke, so I'm not going to go there. But what I do want to touch on is something that was brought up here tonight, and I think where Mr. Robideau is going here means, where's our cap? I think I heard, Kenneth, you said that this property's been being cut for 11 years, and then even before you got on, it was being cut. My God, how long are we going to, like Mr. Robideau says, how long are we going to be somebody's lawn service? What is going to be our cap? A year or two cutting this property, and then you know what? If you're not going to cut your property, then we need to take over the property or figure out how we can adjudicate it or do whatever, because that tells you that apparently somebody's not interested in taking care of their property. So is there a cap on how long? Because after 10 or 11 years, I'm sure you guys, we lose how much money they owe us. Who would like to take that one?
Well, I'll take it, since I haven't really had a chance to speak yet. There is not a cap, and when I became, the Environmental Quality Manager, I was not aware of the repeat offender part of the ordinance, because it didn't seem like it was something we were taking advantage of. And so looking at that, looking at the fact that we've got to figure out ways to get this to stop to where we're not the lawn service, like it's been said, everything's been said with the fines, that we do want to streamline, get things going as good as we can. And so that's part of the process that we discussed at the meeting that Lowell called about how we really need to look at the difference between when there is an owner who is utilizing us as a lawn service and paying off those liens at the end of the year versus an abandoned property that there's never going to be anybody, until the property sells, it's going to deal with that, and how we're going to handle those things. It's like two paths that really have to be looked at per property, how we're going to address that, because it's kind of two different things, because it is two options to where it's, we need fine, and then we need to get some way to get those continually cut for decades properties out of that cycle. So that is something that with everything everybody said that we really need to be thinking about and be aware of, because there is no cap right now.
All right, well, that's something we definitely need to look at, because we're just being taken advantage of. And the abandoned properties, who knows when that'll ever sell, if it ever sells. And at this point, LCG's got enough money tied up into those properties. Taxes are not being paid on, so we need to go
Right,
for
we
it.
don't know, the taxes that come back if they sell, that's not something that paid directly to us. So the money that we're spending every year, it's like which properties are we getting, returns on? That's something else that we're not sure, who ends up paying and who's not in those amounts. It is something else that's just kind of a question out there too.
All right, well, guys, I'm good with it. Fire away and let us know what we need to do. Let's get it fixed. That's all I have, guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Boudreau, you want to wrap up? Yes, sir. Hit your mic, hit the button thing. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. So just a recap of what the needs are and what has been requested from different members as well as the mayor president. I'm going to reference item number 1 as ordinance fixes, okay? I think that the liaison team of Public Works representing the council, the department, and legal, we need to get on that. The second thing is legal requirements that we're obligated to, everything from the mandate of the lettering, the reoccurring events, those types of things, if we could get that back. The third thing is to expand our contractor system to look at peeling out the residential, and Mark brings up a good point, so I want to try to be specific. If we could talk about residential property grass cutting. I understand you need heavy equipment to do the 2 other type services, but I think the majority of what is here is grass cutting. The fourth thing is what the mayor brought up, and that is looking into how we can have a ladder type fine system that first occurrence is X amount, second occurrence, third occurrence, to hopefully serve as some type of deterrent from people constantly not responding for those who are present, but just not responding. And then the last thing is to research and find out where we are as far as caps are concerned. When can we possibly start to look to acquire these properties? When do they become eligible? Is there any laws out there that would support acquisition once you reach a dollar amount or frequency or something like that? So those are 5 things that I've heard here today. There's a few others, but I think those are the 5 kind of homework assignments. I know Lafayette Parish School ain't grading homework anymore. See our friend, Mr. Centennial. But you're not going to get a grade on it, but we will ask you to come back. I would like to set this for 45 days. Let's see how much we could get done in 45 days on this issue, and then maybe we could check some boxes, and there might be only a few things remaining. I want to start off like I finished. The department in this area, as far as I'm concerned, has an excellent response. The service is great. It's just that I believe we have a demand greater than we have committed to being able to address. And the only way that's going to change is if we do things differently. That's my hope. I'll take advice and suggestions from the professional field, but I had to bring these things forward. I'll get those pictures to you, but that's what we're dealing with, okay? So I thank you all so much for these responses. And Madam Clerk, whatever is in that 45-day range, I would like to set it up for a discussion so that we could get responses to as many of these 5 issues that was identified here by everybody who participated. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Dubrow. Thank you.
Thank you. Just on closing, if you can follow up on the request of service on some of those intersections from a couple of weeks and give me an update, let me know what you think we can do. I'd appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Got it.
Thank you, Mr. Russell. Thank you.
Not the first.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move along to ordinances for final adoption. Jeremy, can you please read, sir?
Ordinance 108, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council approving the creation of the Lafayette Public Innovation Alliance pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 2A of Title IX of the Louisiana Revised Statutes of 1950 as amended, accepting the beneficial interest of said trust on behalf of the Parish of Lafayette, naming and appointing the initial trustees of said trust and designating their terms of office, making application to the State Bond Commission for approval of said trust, and directing the recordation of the trust indenture.
Motion by Councilman Conk and a second by Councilman Boudreau. Councilman Boudreaux will offer up the amendment. Do we have a second? Second by Councilman Conk. Council discussion on the amendment. Uh-huh. On the amendment only. Yeah. Yep, Council, no. Who bailing out? Councilman Billard on the amendment.
Yeah, the amendment is the red line, I guess, in our packet. Can you get Mr. Robideau's mic hot?
Mr. Robideau, your mic is on fire.
The process of picking these people, how did it go about? How was it vetted? Could you just explain that, please?
Sure. I got on the phone and started calling folks that had what I felt like was the most impressive, technological and innovation backgrounds that I knew of from all different industries. And I'm happy to say that every single one of them was really excited that Lafayette was looking to figure out how to promote technology. And of course, as y'all know, this is a gratis trustee position, but they all agreed to serve. And so it was just a matter of me picking up the phone and putting on my sales hat and begging them to agree to serve as much as anything as a brain trust for technology.
And also, it says fifth year from the date, December 31st of the fifth year from the date of appointment. So 5-year term, or how does that work? How does this term work?
Yeah, and again, I'll defer to Eric to come up if I mess it up, but the state law, when you establishes a 5-year term, I know that if it's a state trust, typically what happens is when the trust is formed, the trustees meet, and the first thing they do is they draw straws for staggered terms, just so you're not trying to replace 5 trustees all at one time. That option is certainly available to us to do. Or the trustees could volunteer and say, look, I'm really busy, and I'd rather be the 1-year trustee, and so you can, there's a number of ways to handle it. But the statute establishes it at 5 years.
And after that, a new trustee would come on?
Oh, yeah, right. Then, it would come back before the council to appoint, either to reappoint or to appoint new trustees.
All right, and the members, if you could tell us, the public, who are the members on?
Sure, and I don't have it in front of me, so I'm going off of memory. And I mean, this is in no particular order of resume, except for the last one, which is the least impressive. The first one that I contacted was Chris Moe, who is the CEO and founder of Waiter. I wasn't sure that he would have the willingness, because of the time commitment, to do it with all that's going on with Waiter right now. But he and I have had various conversations over the course of the last year. He was extremely excited and very willing to serve. And Chris obviously has a background in other software companies, but obviously I think most people know him as the CEO and founder of Waiter. I also called and asked Ramesh Kalaru with the university, because I think we all know that what his role is at the university, and the biggest producer of computer talent comes out of the university. Although they would like to produce more, because with all the technology companies that we have coming in, and the needs in the healthcare industry and elsewhere, there's a huge demand for software engineers, for individuals along with computer science graduates. And so it was important to have the connection with the university, because anything that we do, any strategy that we put in place, the university is going to play a significant role in how we achieve that. Bruce Greenstein was Louisiana's Secretary of Health and Hospitals. Previous to that, he was a global vice president for Microsoft for global health. Most recently, well, not most recently, right before his current position, he was named Deputy Secretary, Chief of Technology for the U.S. Department of Health and Hospitals. And then most recently, we were fortunate that LHC Group, who I think most of us are familiar with, acquiring and being the largest or the second largest home health care provider in the country, hired him away from the federal government technology division at DHH to come and be their chief technology officer. So he's now in Lafayette and highly qualified. And then fourth is Mandy Mitchell. I think as most of you know, she is a deputy secretary with the Louisiana Department of Economic Development. One of the reasons that we have been able to attract technology firms here is because of the digital media tax credit that the state of Louisiana offers. She is very familiar with that digital media tax credit. She is a governmental liaison person for the Department of Economic Development, and as much as anything else, she has connections in the world of technology all over the country, which is the type of, individual that I wanted to tap into her knowledge base because I think she'll be able to provide counsel. Then the fifth trustee is me, which is the least impressive resume of them all. I can say that I did work at Texas Instruments for a number of years, and so I am not computer illiterate, but as much as anything, I put myself on the trust initially to make sure that we get a mission statement, that we get it kicked off, and then at some point relatively soon thereafter, I would want to find someone to take my place once we've established exactly how the trust is going to function. And so that's the 5 trustees that the amendment is putting onto the ordinance.
Thank you, sir. That's all I have on the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Roboto.
Okay. Not seeing any other discussion on the amendment. Go ahead. Any blue cards on the amendment?
We did have one citizen who signed in. I'm not sure that he wants to speak to the amendment, but Dr. Michael Walden.
He can speak to the amendment or the ordinance as amended, which he normally has. He can speak. We can
Right.
wait. You want to? Okay.
There are no other speakers.
Okay. Thank you very much. Please call the vote on the amendment.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5? District 6? Yes. District 7? Yes. District 9? Yes. District 1?
Yes.
District 2? Motion to amend is approved.
Okay. Any council discussion on the amendment? On the ordinance as amended, Mr. Terrio?
Yes, if you could include Mr. Roboto, please.
Sir, your mic is on fire. It's hot.
Basically, it says the purpose of the trust, and this is what it says. The trust is created for the purpose of furthering and accomplishing any public function and purpose of the parish, including but not limited to basically anything under the sun, as long as it says they are hereby deemed to be held to be essential public functions conducted in the public interest. I mean, there's a whole range. I wasn't trying to be funny. There are literally nonstop things that this thing can provide for. My first question to you is that what specifically is this being created for?
Well, there's probably a couple of things that I would say are important to me. Certainly, if any one of the other trustees tells me that there's some, technology piece, innovation piece that the Lafayette Parish should consider, then I'm open to that also. One of the things that I know is that whether it be LHC Group, whether it be Wader, whether it be CGI and Quero Proficient, any of those technology firms, the common theme in all of my conversations is we need to produce more talent here locally, or we need to implement a strategy that will attract talent from other areas to here. And when I say talent, I mean specifically technology talent. And so what those strategies are and how we accomplish it, we certainly can look to some other communities that have done that and done well because of it. But the trust document itself is based on the existing trust language in the statute, the same language as the LPTFA. There's nothing different in this language as in that trust language. But the trustees that are being put in place in the name of the trust indicate that the specific efforts of this trust is going to be to help us attract software development talent.
Okay, by meaning that, are we talking about hiring them or paying to bring them here and teach, or are we talking about building a business, creating a building with a company that we can draw people in with this kind of trust?
Well, this trust is being established with $0, right? It's not that LCG is putting any money into it to establish it. The trust itself is being established. The trust document is being established. The trustees are there. You know, I may need to defer to Mr. Osborne to see if there's any second lien bonds available to help fund it. But part of the thought process when I reached out to the trustees was that these individuals are going to have the relationships all across the globe to allow us to have conversations to attract funding into the trust, that we will then be able to implement whatever strategies the trustees agree put Lafayette in the best position to attract that type of talent here.
Touched on something, and maybe you can include Mr. Ascott too, if you don't mind. Earlier, I'd asked him a simple question. I walked up to him and I said, who is the settler, Mr. Ascott?
Who is the
settler in this? Because it stipulates that the settler is the one that's providing the money. And I think there was a question. Would you like to address it? You want to come up and address it? The settler is the one that starts it off with the amount of money for the bonds, the initial $100.
Yeah, Eric LaFleur with Montauk and LaFleur Bond Counsel. It does provide that the settler has to put up $100. He's not named in the actual document, and I think Paul and I will have an argument about who's going to actually be the settler. But it just creates a legal fiction that you have to have an asset in order to have it. You got to create the trust, and that's what it does. Whether it actually gets paid or not is just the process that you go through to create it.
So it's fictional that nobody puts up $100. Although
I'll put it up if I need to, but, you know, if that needs to that needs to be done to make it legal, then certainly, I can swing that.
No, not a big deal. Okay, and that leads into the second question, is that based on the trust, Mr. Robideau, on this, how would you foresee this moving forward? Because again, you said the purview of this is outside of LCG and it's going to be on donating monies from the public, outside sources and things like that. So it's not going to have anything to do with taxpayer dollars, correct?
That's correct. It has whatever authorities the state grants to public trust. The beneficiary is the parish of Lafayette. So whatever authorities exist, it will operate as a public trust within the state of Louisiana with Lafayette as the beneficiary.
All right, I'm gonna push you a little bit here. In the first year, any idea how much you think you guys are going to be able to generate?
Oh, I have absolutely no idea. $100, I know, but
There's one.
But outside of that, you know, I think there's going to be a serious effort to try to find grant money, to reach out to all of the different contacts and see what may be available out there to get something started. But I really do not know an amount.
So any grant monies, any additional stuff, still, based from what I've read, still has to report to the governing body here on this public trust. I know you're going to have the 5, but like the LPTFA does, you'll still have to come before the governing body here and provide us with reports and updates of what's going on. I'm
not sure. I think a trust operates as a public trust. It's a public entity. Its meetings are open to the public. Any agenda, any action that it takes, it's all similar to this, but it is done in the public purview as a public trust.
Good. That's where I was going, because basically what it says, and I'm just following up, is that any of the trustees who are used to operate and run and manage this particular trust have no liability and no accountability whatsoever on this.
They do have accountability, so they're subject to the same audit rules that you are subject to, the same ethics rules. If you serve, you have to, the same ethics forms that you fill out, they have to fill out. They have to do the same accounting, same reporting, same sunshine laws. Just about everything that you're subject to, they are subject to by law. So they have to have an annual audit, just like you have to have an annual audit, I think, in the first 90 days of each fiscal year, the same type of thing.
Just a second.
Is that trust going to give some money to the parish? If
That
you can
would-
raise
That
some,
would be ideal.
that would be great, huh?
That would be fantastic.
Well, and that was one point of clarification also, is that this basically states that the parish of Lafayette is the beneficiary of the trust. So the LPTFA is actually, the city of Lafayette is the beneficiary of that trust. So I want to make sure we're clear on that. Parish of Lafayette does not mean just the city of Lafayette, it means the parish of Lafayette.
The beneficiary of this trust is the parish.
Okay. Let me make sure here. All right. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Boudreaux.
Thank you. Actually, you just addressed one of my questions as it relates to the benefactor being the parish of Lafayette. The only other thing that I wanted to mention, Mr. Terry, you had asked about the accountability. That trust, I would agree that it functions and operate independently and on its own and have to meet all the state laws. The only reason the Lafayette Public Trust Financing Authority has come before this council is because of the appointing authority. In this instance, you are considered the appointing authority, obviously, based on your recommendations, or is that a recommendation to us and we are the appointing authority?
That's correct. I'm making the recommendations, but the council is the appointing authority of those trustees.
Right.
Yes.
So that leverage is the thing that has allowed us to bring the trust before us in the past, knowing that they're serving at the will of this governing body. So that's how we've gotten them here before and have encouraged them to, do things according to, like the lawyer said, the laws of the state and ethics and those things. So, but I guess I would ask, what was the determination as far as the benefactor, and how does that look as we see things today in this form? Naming the parish just allows us to serve that entire geography right there. Yes.
Including all the municipalities within that parish. It may be that, and I hate that because I'm just making something up, but yes, if there was going to be an innovation district, it could exist anywhere in the parish with the opportunity zones. That could be anywhere. There may be reasons for it to exist anywhere in the parish, especially if one of the other municipalities wants to somehow attract, and they approach the trust and say, look, we'd like something to be, in Broussard along I-49, and here's what we're willing to do, then the trust, can certainly engage in those conversations. I didn't want to limit it to the city of Lafayette. I wanted to give everyone in the parish an opportunity to benefit from whatever work the trust ends up doing.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilman Billard.
And I might be missing it, but who appoints the trustees?
Y'all appoint the trustees. That's part of in order for this ordinance to pass, I made the recommendation of who the trustees are. Y'all have to vote.
And that's in this document?
That's in state law, right? So in 5 years.
So it don't have to be there if it's state, okay.
Yeah, and so in 5 years or less, if I serve a year and then I resign, and we ask people to, turn in resumes just like we do for other agencies, then they would come before you and y'all would pick which one y'all want to be the
So
trustee.
that would be the reasoning for them to come before us for financial or
that's correct.
whatever, because we're the ones appointing
Because y'all are the
them.
ones appointing the trustees, correct?
That's all that.
Okay.
Mr. Robideau?
Yes, sir.
Are any of those individuals with us tonight?
I don't think so. They asked me if I wanted them to come. Look, they're all incredibly busy individuals, and I told them I did not know how long this meeting would go. I didn't feel like it was necessary, but at any point that you want any of them to come to speak to the council, certainly I'll make sure that they're here.
And you're gonna put them through all the background checks and all the,
Oh, yeah,
stuff like that?
all of that'll happen.
All right, that's all I have. Thank you so much.
All right. Okay. Now, let me cut the Mayor President mics off. All right. Mr. LaFleur, you good?
Done, yeah.
Okay. You standing still there. You got something? You just waiting
Been
for
here a
something
long
to come
time.
up. You've been here a long time. All right. So we have a motion for the amendment. We have voted on the amendment. So is there any blue cards? I think there's Mr. Walden in the back.
Yes, sir. Dr. Michael Walden on the ordinance as amended.
Okay. So we have one speaker?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'm surprised that I'm the only speaker here tonight on this, but it is getting late. My name is Michael Walden. I live in District 3. I'm a retired engineer and hydrologist. I oppose this for a number of reasons. Maybe a big part of it is that I just don't truly understand it. I don't understand why this couldn't simply be any other foundation that you would form as a charitable foundation. You certainly could get together as a group and ask someone to form a foundation. It's not clear to me why it's a value to call this thing a public trust. I'm uncomfortable with the idea that the appointees are in for 5 years. Now, I realize you're saying that you're going to stagger it, but after that, it's going to be 5 years. The council doesn't stay here 5 years. You're going to have people in this trust acting effectively, doing things for the council that maybe are people who were appointed by a council that was here long before their term ends. Having the mayor as a trustee, I think, by name is perhaps not such a good idea. I would think that if you want the mayor to be a trustee of the trust, you should name the mayor as an ex officio member, not by name. Because it could turn out that he's a 5-year member and he could be here doing work of the government long after his term ends. The resumes of the trustees, I don't believe were available to the public to review before this ordinance is being voted on, and yet the names of the trustees are actually in the ordinance. And I would think that their resumes should have been available for the public to review. A severe problem with this is that it displaces the responsibility of government from elected officials to people who were just appointed. So you are giving them the power to charge fees, enter into contracts for the government, hire staff, borrow money, buy property, sell property, and give out loans. And they'll be doing this as the local government, but we as the voters will have no recourse against them. They are appointed and independent, and we have no way to come to really have a complaint against them. I would hope that these trustees will meet and follow public meeting law and public property and procurement laws. But having no budget, at least at the start, it's difficult to see how they're really going to follow the public meeting laws. They're going to procure public property. They're going to have property management. If they were just a foundation, they wouldn't have to follow these severe limitations that control your ethics and your ethics of procurement that they are going to have to follow now because they're a public agency. So I would ask you to reconsider this, to not vote for it at this time.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Councilman Bellard.
I'd ask Paul or Eric a quick question, and And my question was, does the trustee have to reside in Lafayette Parish?
There's not a specific provision in the statute that requires it, but I was under the impression that there is an ordinance that requires appointees of the council to be residents of the parish. I was looking for it.
That would cover this blanketed on top.
Right, if they're one of your appointees, whatever existing ordinances you have in place would also apply. The only one I could find was the Metropolitan Planning
If that's not
Commission.
the case, can we revisit this and amend it at a later date? Or just let me know if that is the case? Or you're saying that is the case?
He's saying that that is the case.
Okay.
You want to confirm that, in other words?
Well, no, if y'all know that's the answer, that's the answer.
Yeah,
Good.
and my understanding is that all the proposed appointees are parish residents, right?
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yes, but I agree with Councilman Bella. Let's confirm that there is an ordinance in place, because the intention is for all of them to
Right.
live in Lafayette
Okay,
Parish. Yes.
all right.
So just a simple email saying yes or no?
We'll
Thank you.
do.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
And I guess if you
No
adopt
problem.
it, we could come back and change it if it was
Yeah, we
necessary.
can come back afterwards.
Yeah, if we confirm that it's not right, like Councilman Bellard said, we want to bring it back and get it done the
Okay,
correct way.
will do.
Just confirms, like he said.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bellard. Councilman Terrio.
Real quick, Mr. Robideau, I know the gentleman was asking about resumes and information. Can that be provided to the public for anybody who would like to be aware of that?
Yeah, what we can do is,
Press release.
yeah, well, I mean, we can do that. I'm just trying to think. We'll post something also on the LCG website. I'm looking at Sidra. We'll get something posted on Consolidated Government's website, to where the public can have access. They'll probably be uploaded as a PDF file. So in the next couple of days, I'll make sure that we get that done.
Okay.
Okay, also make sure you put that last resume you said wasn't too good
But
on
that
there,
one's so
too,
long, it would take a while to,
Okay. Let me ask you another quick question.
blank sheet.
The terms here are 5 years. Would you have any problems with a 3-year term? How did you arrive at a 5-year?
We just went straight from what's in the state law. But no, it doesn't matter to me. I don't care if it's 1 year, I don't.
Would you be acceptable to a 3-year term?
If the lawyers tell me we can amend it to a 3-year term, I don't have a problem. I don't think any one of the ones that I talked to plan on volunteering for 5 years. So they're not going to have any concern that it's less than that. If it was longer than that, I'd have to call them back.
And I just want to, it's actually 6 years is what
well, there
it's
you
actually
have it.
6 years, so we set it up.
-1.
Yeah, for 5, or
got
depending
you.
on when you
Okay,
make the
so-
appointment.
Is
so.
there any reason we can't amend this to 3 years?
There's no reason you would have to,
Can I offer an amendment tonight in order to reduce that from 6 to 3?
Sure. We just have to go through every place in these documents where it references that term and have it amended.
Which is normal protocol, you'll do it all
Sure,
the time.
I'm not complaining, I'm just
Right.
saying, that's all that it would require.
It cleans it up a little bit, helps Mr. Robideau out, so he doesn't have to call him back in 6 years.
yeah, and then they can actually be.
Yeah, we're not going up, so, I mean.
Could be reappointed as well. The maximum number of years that they can serve is 6, so they could serve 3, and then you could reappoint them for 3 more years, but no more than 6 total.
But in some instances, it's better to have a 3-year appointment for those people who are in there. And if you have other individuals who are, looking to get in there, may also want to, once that 3-year term is over, send some very substantial and very nice resumes in to try and get into your particular trust.
And I'm just going to use the Housing Authority as an example. We have someone in as a 1-year, 2-year, 3-year, 4-year, and maybe a 5-year. I think it's 5 appointments that we make on that. So, I can commit certainly publicly and on the mic that when we when we convene for the first meeting, that we will do staggered terms, because it makes no sense for everybody to serve for the same amount, because then we're trying to go find, 5 people every time. But saying that if we go down to 3, then it's 5 people, it's staggered, a couple of them at 1, and it gets a little bit, odd, but
But the state is 6 and you're.
it's 5.
right?
We set it up, yeah, it's 5, it ends at the end of the 5th year after their appointment. So if you may appoint some 6 months into the year, and they would serve 5 years and 6 months. So you also, remember too, that you have the authority to replace anyone who's on of the 5. So if you're not happy with one, or you're ready to make the replacement, you don't need 3
Yeah,
years.
the
You can do it at your
trustees don't have
discretion.
to say so. Yeah, it's your discretion. The trustees can't say, no, I'm on here for 5 at any point. Y'all are the appointing authority. You can-
Senator Boudreaux said that they serve at they serve at your pleasure, and that's, what's that? Yeah, Councilman Boudreaux, but yeah, that's right. You serve at,
Elaborate on that, please.
you serve at they all serve at the pleasure of the council.
That was a good one.
So, Councilman Terrio.
Yes.
Just as a, I guess, a point of input for you, if, in considering the amendment, from what I've heard, because I'm learning also about public trust from Mr. LaFleur as well, seems to me that you gain as much flexibility, or the most flexibility, if you leave it at the 6 in the current statute, and then the appointing authority, you can adjust anybody's term, in and out. At least you have a maximum term already in place. Now, we can make the amendment to 3, but I'm just saying it gives you, as the appointing authority, much more flexibility.
I think the rationale behind it is if one of these companies is interested in doing something in conjunction with the trust, that, these things usually take more than 2 or 3 years. And so you'd have some kind of institutional knowledge that would get you through maybe a particular project. But again, it's completely up to the council.
All right, let me scratch the number, reducing that. But I do have another question for Mr. Robideau. To answer the gentleman's question, he says, why a trust? Why are we using a trust and not some kind of other type of program? Would you care to elaborate on that?
Well, I mean, you could set up a fund at the community foundation. You could do all kinds of things, but none of those are open to the public. I mean, none of, and that's all great philanthropic type of stuff. This is, where the trust is a public entity. The trustees have fiduciary responsibilities that are spelled out. There are all the public laws that apply to the entity. None of that exists in a charitable venture. So I just think it is something that will serve Lafayette in a much better way than, just a group getting together as a, philanthropic effort. This allows us to have conversations with, the Federal Department of Economic Development for grants and all kinds of things that I don't think you would necessarily have as a philanthropic, charitable organization.
Okay, one final quick question. Can this trust, if it were established, had a lot of money, say $10 million or $5 million in it, would it be able to contribute monies to government, LCG or any part of government?
Well, LCG's Lafayette Parish is the beneficiary, so yeah, they want to give the whole 10 million to the parish. I guess they could. I mean, the parish, anything they do is for the benefit of the parish. I don't think that would exclude them giving the parish money. I don't necessarily think that's the intent, but the parish is the beneficiary. So if it's constructing buildings and putting in an innovation district that attracts talent from universities all over the country to come here and do a bunch of different startup enterprises, that's more what I envision. But the parish is the beneficiary, so I think that's pretty broad. They can help the parish out in any number of ways.
Okay, thank you, sir. That's all I have.
Okay. Councilman Boudreaux.
Mr. Terry, are you offering that? No, I was going to. Okay, all right, well, I don't have any.
Councilman Cone.
Joe, I just had someone text me to ask a question. Is this related to crypto?
No.
I have no clue as to what that means, okay?
No. I brought that up at the Robideau report about crypto, but I will say, as it relates to blockchain and the underlying technology, but blockchain is much broader than crypto. It was born out of Bitcoin, but now it's being used in industries all over the world. as a distributed ledger technology that provides for much more protected data. So there's a lot of money, a lot of investment in blockchain now that the healthcare industry, that governments, and that a lot of other folks are spending a lot of money using that technology, but not necessarily.
And I have a lot of homework to do to better understand what you're proposing.
we
but
all do, yes.
That was posed via text, just had to ask. Thank you.
I'm gonna ask it off. I'm gonna wait. Okay, let's keep moving. Please vote on the ordinance as amended.
District 3? District 4?
Yes.
District 5? District 6?
Yes.
District 7? District 9?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2? Motion to adopt as amended is approved. Ordinance 109, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the Unified Development Code so as to reclassify the properties of Tesh Gardens LLC, case number ZON 2018-14, 120 and 122 Twin Meadow Lane rezoning, located generally north of Twin Meadow Lane, west of Vero School Road, and south of Wolf Creek Road, the particular parcels being rezoned from residential single-family to mixed-use neighborhood.
Need a motion and a second. So move, motion by Councilman Conk, and I got a second by Councilman Lewis. I'm not seeing any council discussion, any public comment.
Yes, sir.
Please call the roll.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 9?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2? District 3? Motion to adopt is approved. Ordinance 110, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the fiscal year 1718 operating budget of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government to adjust amounts for risk management uninsured loss reimbursements to actual.
Need a motion and a second? Motion by Councilman Bellard. Second by Councilman Conk. Any council discussion? I am seeing none. Any public comment? Okay, please call the roll.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 9? District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4? Motion to adopt is approved. Ordinance 111, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council providing for the abandonment of a 10-foot utility servitude and right-of-way for future extension in Cypress Cove Phase 2 and the granting of a 35-foot drainage easement and a 10-foot utility easement on the property of Blaine A. Moreau and Frank J. Cormier.
Motion by Councilman Bellard. Second by Councilwoman Cook. Not seeing any council discussion. Public comment? Public comment.
We did have Andre Montanez, who did not wish to speak, but he signed in to support the ordinance.
Okay. Please call the roll.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 9? District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3? District 4? District 5? Motion to adopt is approved.
Quick reminder, everyone, that item 13 is being deferred indefinitely. Chairman, please read the next item.
Ordinance 116, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the fiscal year 1718 operating budget of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government by authorizing the use of prior year fund balance in the amount of $4,403 and appropriating within the Office of the Chief Administrative Officer, Juvenile Detention Division, to promote 3 Juvenile Detention Attendant 1 positions for apprenticeship step increases.
Motion by Councilman Bellard. Second by Councilman Boudreaux. Council discussion? Seeing none, any public comment?
Yes, sir.
All right, call the roll.
District 7?
Yes.
District 9? District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
Motion to adopt is approved. Ordinance 117, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council authorizing and directing the Lafayette Mayor President to enter into an amendment to the franchise agreement between Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government and Atmos Energy Corporation for extension of the term of said franchise agreement for an additional 10-year period.
Motion by Councilman Bellard. Second by Councilman Conk. Any council discussion? Seeing none. Public comment?
Yes, sir.
Call the roll.
District 9,
Yes.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
District 3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
District 6.
Yes.
District 7. Motion to adopt is approved. Ordinance 118, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council authorizing the Lafayette Mayor President to enter into a cooperative endeavor agreement with the Family Church Incorporated, OBO, Lafayette Christian Academy for a school resource officer to be provided on the campus of Lafayette Christian Academy and to amend the fiscal year 17-18 operating budget of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government by decreasing the use of prior year fund balance by $17,169.99 and increasing revenues by $17,169.99.
Motion by Councilman Bellard, second by Councilman Lewis. Any council discussion? Seeing none. Public comment?
Yes, sir.
Please call the roll.
District 1,
Yes.
District 2,
Yes.
3,
Yes.
District 4,
Yes.
District 5.
Yes.
District 6.
Yes.
District 7.
Yes.
District 9.
Yes.
Motion to adopt is approved. Ordinance 119, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council authorizing the Lafayette Mayor President to enter into an intergovernmental cooperative endeavor agreement with the Lafayette Parish School Board to provide for school resource officers and supervisors for Lafayette Parish Public Schools and to amend the fiscal year 17-18 operating budget of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government for this purpose by authorizing the receipt of additional revenues in the amount of $112,057 from the Lafayette Parish School Board for fiscal year 17-18, decreasing the use of city general fund balance by $1,923 and appropriating funding to add 9 additional police officer positions and to promote a corporal to sergeant in the Lafayette Police Department.
Motion by Councilman Bellard, second by Councilman Castillo. Any council discussion? Councilman Terrio. You have
Yes, real quick. Who do we have to discuss this? Chief Aguilar, you in there?
the floor is here.
Just real quick, there was, I guess, some information put out a while back that there was going to be another law enforcement agency that was going to be providing some areas for the schools, resource officers. So I had some questions. They were wondering why LCG is still involved in this side when something was mentioned a long time ago. If you could just kind of clarify that.
The initial thought, and then when this process began, the idea was to have an officer in every single school within Lafayette Parish. And initially, the school board thought it may be a good idea to have a centralized command, and therefore, with that in mind, have the sheriff in charge of every school. It was later, after discussion, it was later determined that the best way for us to proceed in Lafayette Parish was to allow the municipalities to keep their officers in the schools they had and also give us, the municipalities, the first right of refusal for the rest of the schools within their jurisdiction, and then allow the sheriff to come in and grab those schools that were not going to be taken over by the other municipalities, as well as those in the outlying areas. And so that's the agreement we have now.
Very good. That was a clarification. Thank you, Chief. Really
Thank you.
easy. That's all I have, sir.
Not seeing any other council discussion. Think we're good, Chief?
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, any public comment?
Justin Santini.
He says no. Okay. All right.
No other speakers.
No other speakers? Okay, call the vote.
District 2? Yes. District 3?
Yes.
District 4?
Yes.
District 5? District 6?
Yes.
District 7? District 9?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
Motion to adopt is approved. Ordinance 121, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council proposing amendments to various sections of the Home Rule Charter of Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government for the following purposes: to abolish the Lafayette City Parish Council and in its place create a Lafayette City Council and a Lafayette Parish Council as governing authority for the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government, to establish the City Council as the governing authority and legislative branch of the City of Lafayette, and the Parish Council as the governing authority and legislative branch of the Parish of Lafayette, to abolish the Lafayette Public Utilities Authority and substitute in its place the Lafayette City Council as the governing authority of the Utilities Department and of the Lafayette Public Power Authority, to provide that temporary occupants of the position of Mayor President, City Council Member, or Parish Council Member during a period of vacancy shall be eligible to run in an election for the vacant position, to abolish the Lafayette City Parish Planning and Zoning Commission and to substitute in its place a separate City Planning and Zoning Commission for the City of Lafayette and a separate Parish Planning and Zoning Commission for the Parish of Lafayette, to change the method of nomination of prospective appointees to the Lafayette Municipal Civil Service Board, to change the method of counting the required percentages of voters for an initiative or referendum petition, to change the method of counting the number of votes necessary to amend the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government Home Rule Charter, and calling for an election of the duly qualified electors of the Parish of Lafayette by appropriate resolution in order to consider such proposal.
Okay. I have the authors here have requested a deferral to allow for additional time and discussion until the August 7th meeting. Councilman Castillo, you have the floor.
Yes, thank you, sir. Yes, I'd like to defer this to our next meeting. I think it's August 7th for final adoption.
Okay, we have a motion to defer to August 7th, and we have a second by Councilman Conk. Any council discussion on the deferral? Seeing none. Any blue cards?
Yes, sir, we do have 8 speakers signed in, first of which is James Crumling.
Okay. I want to go ahead and make sure that they understand that when they come up, it will give you time to speak in regards to the deferral. Okay, that person's gone? Okay, next.
Roderick Robinson.
Mr. Roderick, when you come up, you can speak about the deferral. You wanna? You still got 5 minutes. You could talk, but it just in reference to the deferral. That's all right. Okay, next. August 7th. You can mark it down.
Barry Baskell. He's no longer here. Matt Thibodeau. Bill Leindecker. So he's passing on the deferral. Wallace Senegal.
He's gone.
Karen Monroe.
Okay.
And Andrew Abear, who signed in as a city and a parish voter.
Good evening. As a registered city voter, I would like for you to vote on this tonight so we can see where you stand. Thank you.
Okay.
He was the final speaker.
Okay. All right. Please call the vote for the deferral on August 7th.
District 3? District 4?
Yes.
District 5?
Yes.
District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 9?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2? Motion to defer until August 7th is approved.
Okay, next we're going to move to consider appointment by the council as a whole to boards and commissions. Chairman, can you please read?
Appointment to the Downtown Development Authority for a 3-year term effective September 1st, 2018. Applicants must own property in the downtown district or shall be an officer of a corporation or other business entity owning property in the district.
All right, at this time, we have resumes for consideration are Stephen Bartley and James Keaty. At Take a nomination, Mr. Lewis, Councilman Lewis.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Stephen Bartley.
Okay, we have a nomination for Mr. Stephen Bartley. Councilwoman Cook.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Katie.
Hit your button. Go ahead.
No, I'd like to nominate Mr. Katie.
Okay, we have a nomination for Mr. Katie. So at this time, a vote for Mr. Bartley or a vote for Mr. Katie.
District 4? Bartley. District 5?
Katie.
District 6?
Bartley.
District 7? District 9? District 1?
Katie.
District 2? District 3? Nobody received 5 votes.
Go to next week. August 7th.
So we'll defer it to the August 7th meeting?
Yeah,
Okay.
put it off to the next week.
Want to revote? Yeah, I request the revote. Councilman Boudreaux requests a revote. And anybody got a second to support that? Yeah? Oh, you don't need it? Don't need it? All right, well, let's count it again.
District 4? District 5? District 6? District 7? District 9? District 1?
Katie.
District 2? District 3? James Keady is appointed.
What? Oh, getting late, people, it's getting late. We're having a good time. Now we're going to move to introductory ordinances. Need a motion and second to consider in global. Motion by Councilman Castile, second by Councilman Bellard. Charmy, please read.
Ordinance 123, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the fiscal year 1718 operating budget of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government by authorizing one animal caretaker apprenticeship promotion within the Lafayette Animal Care Center Division. Ordinance 128, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the fiscal year 1718 operating budget of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government by increasing revenues in the amount of $44,323 received from the U.S. Department of Justice for a 2017 Edward Byrne Justice Assistance Grant and appropriating within the Lafayette Police Department. Ordinance 125, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the fiscal year 1718 operating budget of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government by transferring $192,706 from promotion costs within the Emergency Operations Division of the Lafayette Fire Department and appropriating to overtime for additional funding needed. Ordinance 126, 2018. An ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council authorizing the Lafayette Mayor President to submit the 2018 Annual Plan Grant Application to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Ordinance 127, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the fiscal year 1718 operating budget of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government by increasing revenues in the amount of $1,389,732 in CDBG funds received from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, adjusting the manning table and personnel costs for the reorganization of the housing section, and appropriating funds within the Community Development Department. Ordinance 128, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the fiscal year 1718 operating budget of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government by increasing revenues in the amount of $636,789 in home funds received from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, adjusting the manning table and personnel costs for the reorganization of the housing section, and appropriating funds within the Community Development Department. Ordinance 129, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council authorizing the filing of grant applications with the Walmart Foundation and the Coca-Cola Foundation and other recycling and litter prevention grant programs that may become available. Ordinance 130, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending the fiscal year 1718 operating budget by recognizing additional revenues from ticket sales in the amount of $913,211 and appropriating within the Arts and Culture Division of the Community Development Department. Ordinance 131, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council authorizing non-warranty donation of the property at 413 Morgan Street to Holy Family School pursuant to Louisiana Revised Statute 472205. Ordinance 132, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council declaring the building or structure located at 1313 East Simcoe Street, Lafayette, Louisiana, owned by Lene G. Hamilton and Peggy Perron Hamilton, care of Gerald J. Block, attorney appointed, to be dilapidated and dangerous to the public welfare and ordering the condemnation of same. Ordinance 133, 2018, an ordinance of the Lafayette City Parish Council amending Section 18-13 of the Lafayette City Parish Consolidated Government Code of Ordinances to change the minimum distance between licensed bingo halls in the city of Lafayette and to clarify the method of measurement to be employed for such determination.
All right. Any comments from the public?
Two citizens who did not wish to speak signed in to support item number 30, ordinance 133, with reference to the bingo hall distance.
Okay.
That's it.
All right. At this time, please call the vote on intro for the Globo.
District 5? District 6?
Yes.
District 7?
Yes.
District 9?
Yes.
District 1?
Yes.
District 2?
Yes.
District 3? District 4? Motion to introduce in globo is approved.
Okay. We're going to adjourn the regular council meeting and we'll call to order the rural fire district meeting. At this time, we're going to have election of officers. Ask for nominations for the 2018 fire district chair. Councilman Castillo.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Kevin Nakia.
Okay, we have a nomination for Narcan. Anybody else? Councilman Boudreaux?
The mayor appointed himself to a committee. Can I nominate myself, or it has to be a
It has to be
nominee
a
of someone
trust.
else?
You have to do a trust.
Oh, okay.
All right. Please call the vote for the vote.